Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We are so excited tonight. First of all, for those of you who are joining us on the live stream, we are honored to have you in our presence and feel you with us in this beautiful room, which right now has about 10 people in it, almost a minion, I would call us. And I want to introduce who's with me on the Bema tonight. First of all, I am Rabbi Marcia Tilchin, and I'm one of the clergy team that is working with this beautiful congregation, Temple Beth Emet, right now. And we have a special guest all the way from Downey, all the way, well, actually from Santa Clarita, really, but his congregation is Temple Ner Tamid in Downey, and some of the members of that community are with us tonight. This is Rabbi Danny Melman, who is, where were you born, Danny? Where were you born?
Buenos Aires.
He was born in Buenos Aires.
But in my heart, I'm Yerushalmi.
But in his heart, he's in Jerusalem. His heart is in Jerusalem. His birth certificate is in Buenos Aires, and he lives in California. And he's just a beautiful guy, and he and I are going to share the davening along with musical guest Scott Spitzer on guitar. And we're going to begin with Yedid Nefesh on page 14 in the Slim Shalom. Yedid Nefesh Avarachaman Mishoch Avdach El Ritzonah Yarutz Avdach Kimo Second paragraph. Adur na eziv haolam nafshi cholat avatach ana elna refana Last paragraph. He galena yairaidu fros chaviv alai et sukat shelomach ta'ir eretz mikvodah Yada da da da. Yada da 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 da. Yada da da da. Yada da 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 da. Yada da 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 da. Yada da 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 da.
אילו היה לי כוח, הייתי יוצא לשוק, הייתי צועק ואומר, שבת היום לאדוני, יאללה לי 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 לי, יאללה לי 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 לי, יאללה לי לי
Well, there you go. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We continue. Danny leads us on page 15, Lechuna Ranana.
This is one I learned in my hometown, the first time. Lechune ranena, lechune ranena, lechune ranena, Ladonai. Lechune ranena, lechune ranena, lechune ranena, Ladonai.
Naria, Naria, Letzor Yishenu, Nekadma Fanav Betoda. Naria, Naria, Letzor Yishenu, Bisri Rod Naria Lo.
Lechune ranena, lechune ranena,
Lechune Ranena, Ladonai. Lechune Ranena, Lechune Ranena, Lechune Ranena, Ladonai. Ki el gadol Adonai umelech gadol al kol Elohim, asher biyado mecharei haaretz v'to'af odorim lo asher lo hayam v'usahu. V'nichra lifnei Adonai Osehu ki Adonai Eloheinu v'anachnu amarito v'tzon yado yom v'kol lo tishma'u. Al takshu levavachem ki meriva, ki yom hasa b'midbar asher nasuni avotechem bechanuni kam ra'ufo ali.
40 שנה כות בדור, ואומר עם טועה לבבהם, והם לא ידעו דרכי, אשר נשבעתי באפי, אם יבואון אל מנוחתי.
And we continue on page 16 with Shirul Adonai, Shir Chadash. Yai dai 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 Shirul Adonai Shir Chadash Shirul Adonai Kol haaretz Shirul Adonai Baruch Shemo Basru miyom liyom Yeshuato Sapru Vagoyim Kivodo Bechol ha'amim Niflotav Ki Gadol Adonai Umehulal Me'od Norahu Al Kol Elohim Ay 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 Ki Kol Elohim Hamim Elilim Vadonai Shamayim Asa Hod v'hadar lefanav Oz v'tiferet b'mikdasho Havu l'Adonai mishpechot amim Havu l'Adonai kavod va'oz Havu l'Adonai kivod shemo Se'u mincha Uvo lechatzrotav השתחוו לאדוני בהדרת קודש, חילו מפניו כל הארץ. אמרו בגויים, אדוני מלך, אף תיכון תבל בל תימות, ידין עמים במישרים, ישמחו השמיים ותגל הארץ. ירם הים ומלואו, יעלו שדי וכל אשר בו, אז ירננו כל עצי יער לפני אדוני קיווה לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט תבל בצדק ועמים באמונתו. יאי די 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 די, יאי די 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 די, יאי די די, יאי די די יאי, יאי די די די. Shabbat Shalom again for those of you who are just joined us on live stream. Welcome. Just to introduce who's our special guest, we have Rabbi Daniel Melman, who is the spiritual leader of Temple Ner Tamid in Downey. And tonight they are joining us for the final Shabbat of June at Temple Beth Emet when we gather on Friday nights. And we're so honored to have you and members of your community here, Danny. And also Scott Spitzer on guitar. And I'm Rabbi Marcia Tilchin. And we're getting like a nice crowd going here. And so the next psalm, we're doing a full-on Cobb Shop today, guys. So turn to page 17, and Danny leads us in Psalm 97.
אדוני מלך תגל הארץ, ישמחו עם רבים, ענן ברפל סביביו, צדק ומשפט מכון, כיסו אש לפניו תלך ותלהט, סביב צריו. הירו ברקיו תבהל רטה ותחל הארץ, ערים כדונג נמסו מלפני אדוני, מלפני אדון כל הארץ.
הגידו השמיים צדקו ברחו.
הגידו השמיים צדקו, ברחו לעמים כבודו, יבושו כל עובדי פסל, המתעללים באלילים, ישתחוו לו כל אלוהים. שמעה ותשמח ציון, ותגלנה בנות יהודה למען משפטיך אדוני. כי אתה אדוני עליון על כל הארץ, מאוד נעלית על כל אלוהים. אוהבי אדוני סנורה, שומר נפשות חסידיו, מיד רשעים יצילם. אור זרו על הצדיק ולשתי לב ישמחה.
שמחו צדיקים באדוני, והודו לזכר קודשו. And now we continue with Psalm 98, page 18. מזמור שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, כי נפלאות עשה, הושיע לו ימינו, וזרוע קודשו, הודיע אדוני ישועתו, לעיני הגויים גילה צדקתו, זכר חסדו ואמונתו. לבית ישראל ראו כל אפסי הארץ, את ישועת אלוהינו, הריעו לאדוני כל הארץ, פיצחו ורננו וזמרו, זמרו אדוני בכינור, בכינור בכל זמרה. בחצוצרות בקול שופר, הריעו לפני המלך אדוני ירם היה מולו. תבל ויושביה, נהרות ימחה וכף, יחד הרים ירננו לפני אדוני קיווה. ישפוט תבל בצדק I invite you to turn to page 19. We're actually going to read this psalm in English responsively. You guys will read the italics. Adonai is sovereign, nations tremble, God is enthroned on high, the very earth quivers.
Adonai is great in Zion, exalted all over peoples. Let them praise God, God is awesome, holy.
A sovereign, mighty, rules with a loving justice. You alone bring about equity, ordaining justice and compassion for the people of Jacob.
Exalt Adonai our God, worship God who is holy.
Moses, Aaron, and Samuel, God's chosen ones, called out to Adonai, who answered them in a pillar of cloud.
They zealously strove to obey the divine law, even when God's decrees were beyond their grasp.
You responded to them with compassion, even as you rebuked them for their offenses.
Exalt Adonai and bow towards God's holy mountain. Adonai your God is holy.
So we continue on page 20 with Psalm 29. Some people have the custom of standing, but you don't have to. Up to you. Just want to let you know. So this is different. So, yes. Oh, and thank you. We are being led by Rebecca. Thank goodness you reminded me. I was going to totally ruin this.
Mizmor letahavin havilaton neveneli havilaton kavavos
Haviladona kevavos ishtachavuladona
kodesh kol Adonai el hamayim ekhabad hirim Adonai amay rabim
Kol Adonai ka'koach
Kol Adonai ve'adar.
Kol Adonai
Shover arazim vayashaber Adonai et arzei havanon.
Vayar kidem kemo eged levanon v'sirion kemo ben reimim
Kol Adonai chosed lavotesh. Kol Adonai yachil midbar. Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh. Kol Adonai yechol elayalot.
Vayachasaf yarot uvechecholo kulo mekavod
Adonai lamabul yashav yeshev Adonai melech leolam. Adonai hoz le'amotim. Adonai yivarech elamon. Yasher Koach, beautiful, Rebecca. I invite you all to be seated. We are on page 21. Danny's going to lead us in the first 5 verses of Lecha Dodi, and I'm going to pick up with the last 4.
Lecha dodi likrat hara, b'nei Shabbat mekavela. 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 Shamore v'zachor v'dibur echad, ishmi'anu el amimcha. Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, l'shem
תחמי על יד בן ישי בית הלחמי
קורבה אל נפשי גאלה.
דודי לקראת כלה.
בני שבת לקבלה.
לא תבושי ולא תקלמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי בך יחסו, עניי עמי ונבנתה. הרלתי לה לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. והיו למשיסה שופסייך ורחקו כל מבלייך, יסיס עלייך אלוהייך, כמסוס חתן על כלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. ימין ושמאל תפרוצי ואת אדוני תריצי, על יד איש בן פרצי ונשמחה ונגילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני המסגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Yai dai 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 dai, 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 yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai. Yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai. You may be seated, and Rabbi Melman leads us in Psalm 92 as traditionally done at his synagogue in Downey. I've heard this before, but not in a long time.
Another one that I learned out of the border. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. עלי עשור ועלינה ולעלי
היגיון בכינור, מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך ארנן. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון.
ולזמר לשמך עליון.
Yishem damadei adviatam arom le'olam Adonai ki heino evech Adonai ki heino. Yid pardu kabole aven vatar emkir em karni veloti v'shem and ranan vatabedeni v'shurai v'kamim alay mireim tishmana oznai. We join together.
צדיקת אמר יפרח כלב ארלנון יזכה שטוב
Olim beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvun beseva deshenim berananim yiyu lehagid ki ashar Adonai Suri Suri velo. Please join me on page 24 in the English. Again, we'll read responsively. Adonai is sovereign, crowned with splendor. Adonai reigns, robed in strength.
You set the earth on a sure foundation. You created a world that stands firm.
Your kingdom stands from earliest time. You are eternal.
The rivers may rise and rage. The waters may pound and pulsate. The floods may swirl and storm.
Yet above the crash of the sea and its mighty breakers is Adonai our God supreme.
Adonai never fail. Holiness befits your house for eternity.
Eidotecha nemnu meod, leveitcha nava kodesh Adonai, liorech yamim. In just a moment, we're going to recite our first Mourner's Kaddish. I did want to mention, in case I forget to mention at the end, that I've done... I've helped two families who are Beth Emet families with life transition. And some of this you may know, but Ruth Dratch passed away a few weeks ago, and her funeral was like a week and a half ago. And then just this week I did a funeral for Marvin Marsh. He passed away, and his sons, Ted and Jeff, reached out to me. I guess they found out through the office to call. And so I thought you'd all want to know. I'm sure that I know how to, if you want to contact their children or whatever, I can make that possible for you. But I want to invite anybody who is currently in mourning or observing a yort site, or if it's your custom to say Kaddish when it's said. We're on page 24 on the bottom. And at Temple Beth Emet, there is a practice here which is quite beautiful, which is that if you know somebody who is saying Kaddish, it's it's sort of our opportunity to stand next to them in solidarity and love and support. So feel free to do that. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah Bi'alma divra kirute bi'amlich malchute v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehe shmei Rabba mevarach le'alam u'le'almei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar, v'yitalev, v'yitalal, shemei dekudasha barechu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. You may be seated briefly for just some thoughts on this week's Parsha. I want to thank Scott for his enthusiastic and beautiful guitar playing for Kabbalat Shabbat and for Danny for, that was really quite exciting.
Scott gets better every week.
Does he? Yes. Suffice it to say that there's a lot going on in the world. Okay. And what I'm going to focus on this evening, as I was studying this Parsha, which actually is a very significant Parsha in my life. Ask me why. Why? Thank you. Well, first of all, everything about this Parsha is both weird and not weird. Okay, why? Because I did not have my bat mitzvah when I was 13. I had my bat mitzvah when I was just before I was 14. So my birthday was this week. I was some age. But my bat mitzvah was June 6th in 1975, right before I turned 14. Not exactly sure why that happened, but I was one of the last females in my congregation in Detroit who could not have a Saturday bat mitzvah. Girls were still, it was a vestige of girls still doing it on Friday night and only chanting a haftarah. Anybody remember those? Okay. And that was bad. That was the way it was. And for some reason, so whatever. But the haftarah that was picked for me was not the haftarah that was going to be chanted the next Saturday in shul, which would have been Shalach Lecha. My dad wanted me to learn the haftarah for last week, Bahalotecha, which of course is also, focuses on the light, and it's the same one we read on Hanukkah. So I didn't even know that I read the wrong haftarah for the whatever. It doesn't matter, because it was on a Friday night, and who cares anyway? I was just a girl. Okay. But I always knew that I was sort of dancing on the Shalach Lecha kind of thing. All right. So then, years later, in 2001, in 2001, the weekend that I auditioned to come to California to work for Congregation B'nai Israel was Parashat Shalach Lecha. And I knew that my bat mitzvah was on Shalach Lecha. I didn't remember that my haftarah was Bahalotecha. I don't know why. So I say to them, oh my gosh, that's my bat mitzvah at haftarah. So, and of course I was going to come daven for them and read Torah, and I was going to do the haftarah and everything. So I get up there, and I open the haftarah, and I knew I could do it like this, because I'd already been a cantor for a million years. I'd done Bahal, and it was Shalach Lecha, and I don't think I'd ever done Shalach Lecha, so I did a cold reading of Shalach Lecha at B'nai Israel. I think I did a very good job, by the way. But that was obviously a very important weekend in my life, because that's what brought me out to California. Here we are. And then there's another connection. I can't remember what it is. But anyway, so I have all these things with Shalach Lecha. But let me tell you what's so interesting about Shalach Lecha. I think it is a fascinating study on human psychology and human nature. The stories of the spies, it's sort of a classic tale about how people can go to the same place and have the same experience and relate it completely differently. That's very human nature. And that's one of the things that we are dealing with right now as Americans, which is that we are really having a very, very different experience of the world that we're living in, sort of depending on, in some ways, yes, the news you watch, but even more so the way that you're wired to think. And I would say that the fact that there were 12 spies, 12 miraglim, and 2 came back really full of faith, full of promise, full of excitement, could see all the possibility, even though there were big people there, and even though the towns were a little fortified, they weren't afraid. They were ready to tackle this, right? And then there were 10 who were like, I don't want to die. I want to protect my little, for Amot. I'd rather go back to Egypt where I had the you-know-what beat out of me every day, but I knew that it wasn't so bad that I might be able to live till I'm whatever, old age, and eat the food that I know, rather than go somewhere where I'm completely, lost and I have no idea what's going to happen. I think that the fact that it's a 2 to 10 division, I think more people are driven by the fear of the unknown than most of us really, sort of give people credit for being. And part of what great leadership is all about, why we need great leaders, is to help people see possibilities that they don't naturally see in front of them. And so that's one sort of fascinating piece of this story. But the other piece of the story, you don't have to open your Humashim, but they're giving the report, and Caleb hushes everybody before Moses and Aaron, and he says, let's by all means, let's go up, and we're going to gain possession of the land, for we can surely overcome it. Go, Caleb, from the tribe of Judah, also not an accident, who is, Judah is the son of Jacob, who is really able to right the wrongs of his family. Some of the great sins that drove the family apart, he was able to bring them together, so that it's not an accident that Caleb comes from his line. But the men who had gone up with him said, we can't attack that people. They're stronger than we are. And then they spread calumnies among Israelites about the land they had scouted, saying, the country we traversed and scouted devours its settlers. All the people that we saw are men of great size. We saw Nephilim there, and the Anakites were part of the Nephilim, which probably actually wasn't true. It's sort of like, how you hear rumors like, the media is socialism or something like that. I've seen buffers. The Anakites and the Nephilim probably had nothing to do with each other, but okay. But they said it, and the people were like, oh my God! And we looked like grasshoppers to ourselves, so we must have looked to them. And the whole community broke into loud cries, and the people wept that night. And the Israelites rallied against Moses and Aaron. See what that kind of destructive attitude can do, not only to the people who were actually in the experience, but then the people who we need to get us to come together. If we had died in Egypt, the whole community shouted, or if we could, let us just die in the wilderness. Why is the Lord taking us to a land to fall by the sword? Our wives and children will be carried off. Makes me think of Beauty and the Beast, right? When whatever, they'll take off with your children. It would be better for us to go back to Egypt. And they said to one another, let us head back to Egypt. And then whatever, and Moses and Aaron fall on their faces. And we know the end of the story. The end of the story is that God said, you know what? This people is not ready to go to the promised land. And we're going to have to do something about that. And it's going to take 40 years. And that is the rest of our story. And after 40 years, we made it into the land under the great leadership, by the way, of Yehoshua, who was not alone, who had the support of God and was left with some tools from Moses. And so this is my eitzah to all of us now, many of us who are a little in shock, freaked out about really what lies ahead for this poor country that some of us love so much. And that is that, we may need 40 years in the desert. And I don't know what that's going to look like. But they never stopped moving forward in the desert. And we can't stop moving forward. We can't stop trying to elevate human values, human rights, goodness to others, what's appropriate, and, making it possible for everybody in this country to pursue life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and have the health care that they need, and all the opportunities to be able to flourish in society so that we as a country can grow and elevate to great heights. I invite, okay, for sure. Scott asked me to see if we could maybe trim the 40 years to like 20. I was like, I don't think so, buddy. Okay. So now we're gonna go into Ma'ariv, which begins on page 28, and I invite you all to rise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bivaro ma'ariv aravim, bechachma potech sharim, uvitavuna mishana itim umachliv et azmanim, umesader ha'kochavim. Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uven laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, Echai v'kayam, tamid yimoch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Hamariv aravim. Page 29. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael amchavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadeta al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachveinu u'v'kumeinu nasiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'v'mitzvotecha li'olam va'ed ki hem chayenu v'orech yameinu v'orech yameinu uvahem nege yomam v'layla v'ahavatecha al tasir mimenu li'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael. I invite you all to take a deep breath. We're on page 30. And we recite together, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'yahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol vavecha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinanatam levanecha v'dibarta bam B'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'derech u'v'shochvecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam liot al yadecha v'hayu l'totafot b'neinecha וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, והיה אם שמוע תשמעו מצוותי. ויאמר אדוני משה לאמור דבר. למען Jesus Christ. Adonai Elohechem Emet. We're on page 32. V'yamuna kol zot v'kayam aleinu ki yu Adonai Eloheinu v'yein zulato. Well, if you are davening, please continue. I'm going to do a little reading on the bottom of 32. Daily you renew our souls, restoring us as you redeemed our ancient nation Israel from slavery to freedom, from sorrow to triumph, blessing our people with the springtime of its life to be renewed by all of us each year. Healer of our wounds, holy God, do not abandon us to enemies who threaten, to tyrants who deny your sovereignty. Into your care do we commit our souls, now as in the past, sustained by your truth, embraced by your love, inspired with hope for the future by your faith in us. Beloved are you, Redeemer of the people Israel, whose faithfulness in ages past assures our future too. U'malchuto beratzon kiblu aleihem Moshe u'bnei Yisrael lechanu shira b'simcha rabah v'yamru chulam mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha Nedar b'kodesh, no ra tehilot, o seifele. Malchutecha ra'uvanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe, zeli anu v'yamru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Ki fadad Adonai et Yaakov, ugelo miyad chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Ga Yisrael. We're going to pray for peace and protection on page 33. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Ufrom seitenu, uvoenu, lechaim u'shalom, me'ata v'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shalomecha, Baruch atah Adonai. Haporei sukat shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim. I invite those who are able to rise on page 34 for Vishamru, and this is the Kaubach. Did you want to do it? Vishameru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat La'asot et HaShabbat Lidorotam berit olam ay 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 Veini uvein bnei Yisrael oti leolam ki sheishet yamim Asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz uvayom hashvi shavat vayinafash. After the Chatzi Kaddish on the bottom of 34, we're going to take a moment for silent prayer. The traditional liturgy begins on page 35A or B and goes all the way to page 40, all the way to page 38. There's a lovely English translation of the evening Shabbat Amida on 39, or this is an opportunity for you to do some personal meditation and reflection. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba v'yalma divra kir'utei v'yamlich malchutei b'chaye chon v'yomei u'b'chaye dechol beit Yisrael b'gala Uvizman kariv vimru amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach le'alam le'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha. Barichu li'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yaseh Shalom Bimromav. Hu Yaseh Shalom Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ya'kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom.
Shalom Aleinu.
Inu Ya'kol Yisrael. And Rabbi Melman, I hope, will lead us in the Me'ain Sheva on page 47. If you're able to, I invite you to rise. No worries if you can't.
Okay. The main.
Via Hulu and the whole thing, yeah.
ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו, אשר ברא אלוהים, אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא, האל עליון, קונה שמיים וארץ. מגן אבות בדברו, מחיי מתים במאמרו, האל הקדוש אין כמוהו, המניח לעמו ביום שבת קודשו, כי בו רצה להניח להם, כי בו רצה להניח להם, לפניו נעבוד ביראה ופחד ונודה לשמו, בכל יום תמיד מעין הברכות. אל ההודעות אדון השלום, מקדש השבת ומברך שביעי, ומניח בקדושה לעמדו שני עונג, זכר למעשה בראשית. Page 48. Eloheinu ve'Elovoteinu ritzei v'imnuchatenu, Kaddishenu b'mitzvotecha, v'tein chelkeinu b'toratecha, Sabeinu mituvecha, v'samchenu b'shuatecha, v'taher libeinu li'avdecha be'emet, v'hanchilenu Adonai Eloheinu bi'ava uvratzon, Shabbat kodshecha v'yanuchu v'Yisrael
מקדשי שמך.
Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh Shabbat.
Amen. You may, well, I'm going to do Kaddish Shalom, and then we're going to do one more thing before Kiddush. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah. B'alma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechonu v'yimechonu v'chay dechol beit Yisrael b'agalav izman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevarach la'alam la'al me'el maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudashah. B'richu li'elam min kol berchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechamata damiran b'alma v'imru. Amen. Titkabal tzalot honu v'ad honda chol Yisrael kodam v'hondi v'shmaya v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'romav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. What we're going to do is I want to just invite anybody. We're going to do a little Mishaberach now, and I want to invite anyone who has a name that they'd like to share when I pause in the Hebrew to do so. So just bear with me for a moment. Yes, I'm actually was going to do something a little bit different, but we can do that. But when I pause in this Hebrew, and then we can join the Debbie Friedman together. Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah Hu Yevarech v'Yirapeh et HaCholim. Tzvi Hersh Bat Chana Fega, Pat Rudden.
Lisa Trevino, Elisha Ben Sara.
Michael Chaim Ben Sarah Leah, Joyce Ellis Saltzman.
Okay. Thank you. And Hu Yevarech v'Yirapeh et kol hacholim b'kehila hakadosha hazeh. Hakadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Alehem Lahachazikam L'Rapotam V'Yishlach Lahem Meheira Refuah Shlema Min HaShamayim Refuat HaNefesh U'Refuat HaGuf B'toch Shar Cholei Yisrael Shabbat Himalizok U'Refuah Karov Alavo Hashta B'Agala U'Vizman Kariv V'Nomar Amen. We also want to mention Jim Levy, who I believe had surgery today. We hold him in our prayers. El na refana la, el na refana la, el na refana la, el na refana la. Okay. Going to do Kiddush. Just as for these are, I know we're going to make Kiddush together when we have dinner, but these are for people who are joining us online. Savri Chaverai, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'yahava v'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lemahaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzrayim Kivanu v'charta, v'otanu kidashta, mikol hamim, v'shabbat kodshecha, b'yahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh haShabbat. And we continue with Aleinu on page 51. No, he did not want me to share that with him. Danny, do you want to lead us in Aleinu? Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit. Kiloye haratzot, velo samanu, kemishbechot hadama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'goralenu kecho hamonam, v'anachnu korim, v'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu Notesh Shamayim B'Yosei Haaretz, U'Moshav Yikaro B'Shamayim Ima'al, U'Shchinatu Zo, B'Govei Meromim, Hu Eloheinu Einod, Emet Malkeinu Zulato, kakatu betorato, viadata hayom behashevota elevavecha, ki Adonai hu Elohim, bashamayim imal, v'ya'aretz, mitachat einod, al ken nekavelech Adonai Eloheinu.
לתקן עולם במלכות שדי.
כי על מלכות שלך היא ולעומיה תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. You may be seated for a moment. This week, Temple Beth Emet remembers the following people with yortzites: Samuel Kessler, Fanny Schoenfeld, Joseph Goldman, Jacob Grockett, David Hubblebank, Ruth Lopin, Francine Rosenblum, Max Roston, Stuart Silverman, Irving Tochner, Sonia Cohen, Isidore Kirsten, Anita Nixon, Jack Rabin, Michael Spector, Robin Boland, Harriet Sabat, David Silverman, Lester Brown, Erwin Cohen, Max Fogel, James Hagenbacher, Dorothy Megabau, Joseph Hoffman, Samuel Kessler, Bert Schwartz, Alvin Abrams, Ida Beloven, Meyer Cohen, Abraham Garber, Celia Milter, Irving Silverman, Irving Spector, and Zelda Weiss. Are there other yortzites to acknowledge that are taking place this week? As I mentioned, thinking about the Marsh family, Marvin, and I guess her name was Chucky, and we also the Dratch family, Ruth and Joe and their son Elliot, sons Elliot and Michael. The Mourner's Kaddish is found on page 52. We honor the memories of our loved ones. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba B'alma divra kirute v'amlich malchute v'chaye chol v'yomechon v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevorach la'olam u'almei almaya Yitbarach v'yishabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. I'm guessing somebody here would like to make some announcements, and that could be the president, Lou Abramowitz.
Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to all our guests tonight. Very much thank you to Rabbi Melman, Rabbi Tilshin. Scott, thank you for adding. It was a very lively and enjoyable service, so we thank you for that. Just going to mention a few things very quickly so we can get out to dinner. We have a fundraiser. You know, it's amazing, but we're already talking about the high holidays and Rosh Hashanah, and we have a program that's a fundraiser, which is Honey from the Heart. Register now through August 1st. You can get your honey for $13 per jar, and the shipping is covered if you get it before the 1st. So check with the office for that. So Sunday, we have an event, which is the 65th anniversary celebration and our 65th anniversary book. But unless you've made an RSVP, you're late. And so hopefully all you who are Temple members will be there this Sunday. Now, we have some other events going on. If you want to work on blowing the shofar for the high holidays, Rebecca Weisbuck and Penelope Kiefer will be having some classes in August, the 9th, the 16th, 23rd, and 30th, and then the first, then in September 13th and 20th. So check with Rebecca or Penelope.
We have one shofar. David, you have the other one, I believe. We have one in here.
Okay.
Early, you guys, from 6 to 7, and then
Right, check with them. We'll make sure people have something to practice with if they don't have it themselves. Let's see. Now, this month's dinner, which is tonight, well, normally we have the Shabbat dinner on the last Friday of the month. July has 5 Fridays. So we're going to have our Shabbat dinner not on the 5th Friday, the last Friday, but on the 4th Friday. That's the 22nd of July. So please keep that in mind. Make your reservation as usual. It'll be $18 for the dinner. We have lots of things going on here. I'm not going to go into detail. If you check the rack in the multi-purpose room, you can find out about a lot of events. You can check, I think, Renee Raleigh, don't you have some game day events here during the week?
It's the second and third Thursday,
The second and third Thursdays, okay?
and it's from 11 to 1.
Right, and check with the office. We have Mahjong here. There's a lot going on. Please check with the office. Be in touch. Be here during the summer. We're going to have some memorable Shabbatot, and it's just a good place to be. One other event coming up that I have here is we're going to do training on the defibrillator on the 17th of July. So if you want to learn how to do that and help us save lives, if God forbid we need it, please check with the office. I believe it's 2 o'clock on July 17th, but the office will have better information than I have right now. Lifeline screening will be available here on Tuesday, June 28th, by appointment only, so please check with the office. They can tell you how to register online. Be sure if you have people to add to the Mission Bay Rock list, and especially if you have people to delete from the Mission Bay Rock list, contact the office. With that, I'll say Shabbat Shalom.
We are going to be
Yeah,
here for Tisha B'Av.
Yeah,
Erev Tisha B'Av.
so, right, one of the things I wanted to say is that on Erev Tisha B'Av, which is a Saturday night, the collaborative is, which is a Saturday, August 6th, the collaborative is hoping to do a Zoom with a number of congregation Zoom programs. And then on Tisha B'Av morning on Sunday, if you'll allow me, I'd love to host a shacharit here if anyone is able to join me on Tisha B'Av. And then we'll probably be doing mincha at Temple Beth El of South Orange County, if you want to schlep all the way down there and put on your tefillin. And Danny, did you want to do something for Tisha B'Av?
August 5th, which is the Friday.
Before.
The first Friday in August. We are going to have, it's not what we should be doing before Tisha B'Av, but we are going to have a barbecue and then followed by Shabbat Under the Stars, right? There's some flyers that we left there.
Are we invited to come join you for that? Is that what I'm understanding?
There are flyers.
Okay.
And as far as pricing, you're considered members.
Well, first of all, that's so sweet. And, you know, I think what's really exciting about tonight is that our friends from Ner Tamid came and joined us. And, Beth Emet doesn't have an every Friday night minyan. They do what they can once a month, and it becomes a sort of a festive opportunity. And the fact that we're collaborating and building relationships with other synagogues in the area is really what it's all about. It allows all of our communities to be enriched and expanded. So we're so happy that you're here. Thank you very much for coming. And again, we want to say, as Danny closes us out with a super yigdal, we want to say to you, thank you for joining us on the live stream. Wish you a Shabbat Shalom. And they will be back here tomorrow morning with Eric Dangot at the helm and some special Torah readers and daveners. Zev is away this weekend, but don't be here or be square at 9:30 a.m. on the live stream.
Say happy birthday to Rabbi Tolcha.
Well, thank you. There you go. Thank you so much. I'll just say one thing. I'm a little bit younger than this congregation. That's what I just learned from Lou tonight. Okay, here we go. Page 53.
נמצא בעינת אל מציאותו אחד בן יחיד כייחודו נעלם וגם אין סוף לאחדותו אין לו דמות הגוף ואינו גוף לא נערוך אליו קדושתו קדמון לכל דבר אשר נברא ראשון ואין ראשית לראשיתו אינו אדון עולם בכל נוצר יורה גדולתו ומלכותו שפע נבואתו נתן האוהל אנשי סגולתו ותפארתו לא קם בישראל כמו שעוד נביא ומביט את אמונתו אמת נתן לי אוהל נאמן ביתו לא יחליף האל ולא ימיר דתו לעולמים לזולתו ויודע סתרנו מביט לסוף דבר קדמתו גומל איש חסד כמפעלו
noten l'rasha rishato, yishlach l'ketz yamin, Mashiachenu,
לפדות מחכה
keketz Yeshuato, meitim yechayel berov chasto, baruch adeyad, shem dehilato, meitim yechayel berov chasto,
ברוך הדיה
shem dehilato. Okay, before we go, Yesher Koch, don't go anywhere. I studied this, sort of the history and evolution of synagogue music, basically for the last 700 years. That's what I got my master's in sacred music in. And we studied, how things sort of shifted, how things were different from Austria to Odessa and whatever. But we also talked a lot about the evolution of sort of modern synagogue tunes. And what you just heard was a fascinating sort of similar but separated by oceans and time zones and countries, which is that, like, Danny was singing a different melody than the one we know, but rhythmically it was like it, and it was related to it, and it was almost as like we could sing it together, but it was different. But we go, Yigdal Elohim Chai ve'yishtabach. We all know that melody. That's not what he was singing. He was singing in a totally different thing. He's going, listen to this. Yigdal Elohim Chai ve'yishtabach. Nimsa v'yenet el metziuto. I've never heard that in my life. Yishlach l'ketz yamin meshichenu lifdot mechake ketz Yeshu. I don't know, I'm kind of, this is what I just heard from him. But it's so interesting, because that's more akin to our high holiday. Yigdal, Yigdal Elohim Chai ve'yishtabach. But I just want you to appreciate that there was a Jewish musicologist would go nuts with what just happened here. And with that, I'm going to wish you a Shabbat Shalom.
I noticed that too, Marsha. You weren't
Shabbat Shalom.